Southern Africa is predicted to be severely affected by future climate change and hence is considered a priority area for creating an enabling environment for adaptation. There is now clear observational evidence that shows that many natural systems are being affected by increases in air and ocean temperatures, as well as fluctuations in the amount and timing of rainfall events, which will in turn have significant implications for human well-being. Climate change is currently becoming increasingly prominent in the science and policy communities, with a corresponding increase in the amount of attention directed at conducting realistic impact and adaptation studies at various spatial and temporal scales. In 2008, the DST adopted a 10-year innovation plan with science and technology for global change, commonly referred to as the Global Change Grand Challenge, as one of the 5 strategic areas in which the DST would strategically invest to facilitate transition to knowledge economy. The choice of GCGC was strategic because of SA's geographical position at the southern tip of Africa, which makes it an ideal laboratory for transdisciplinary research in global research and a preferred research destination, thereby creating research opportunities for young and aspiring scientists.
The Global Change Grand Challenge was introduced in 2008 by the DST. It's part of something called the 10-year innovation plan. And part of the idea of the 10-year innovation plan was to get the research community to work much more closer together towards some big challenges that South Africa was facing.
When we developed the 10-year innovation plan in 2008, we were already aware of the challenges of global warming. And therefore it made sense for South Africa to choose global challenge as one of the areas in which we need to focus our attention on.
The GCGC has 3 components. 1. Science focus aimed at improving the scientific understanding of global change. 2. Technology development focus aimed at stimulating technological innovations to climate-proof both the society and sectors of the economy, or building their resilience to global change. 3. Science Policy Practice Interface, focusing on bridging science policy divide and facilitating the use of science in decision-making processes.
In the Global Change Grand Challenge, of course, we identified various areas. One of the critical areas is, of course, to ensure that the social and economic sustainability of our country is actually achieved. The natural science part of it is quite easy and straightforward because they are experts that we have in South Africa. But in fact, how that translates into our policies is a very critical part. And we've been supporting that through a specified funding instrument with Global Change Society and Sustainability. And more are becoming aware of the needs and in fact what the Global Change Challenge is about.
South Africa's size, geographic location and diverse biosphere provides the world's researchers with an exciting and unique Earth laboratory, flanked by 3 oceans varying in temperature, from warm to cold to frigid, that directly influence global weather patterns and atmospheric greenhouse gas concentrations, and a variety of ecosystems that encompass savannas, grasslands, arid shrublands, deserts, forests, seasonal and perennial rivers, thousands of kilometers of estuarine and marine environments. South Africa offers a concentrated insight into the global changes inflicted on our finite resource base.
Over a fairly short period of time, South Africa has become a world competence in astronomy through investments we've made in SKA, Meerkat and SALT, for example. We believe that we can position South African global change and Earth system science in a similar manner. We make significant investments in research in this area. We have a number of important and large institutions and research infrastructures that are active in this area. If we tie them together, we are convinced as a department that we can excel in this area just as we are in astronomy, and that's what we intend doing.
The DST and NRF have initiated a number of global change programs. These play an important role in helping address the challenges arising from global change, as well as seizing any opportunities that might be created by global change. They are: Access.
In Access, what we're trying to understand is how the Earth system is dynamic at different time scales and at different space scales. We're trying to understand how in the past things changed and how they manifested in the natural system. And in the current era, we're trying to understand how dynamics of the Earth system at a variety of different space and time scales is manifesting, and how in the future that Earth system dynamic might change under the forcing of climate change. Access has concluded its first phase. We've trained over 150 postgraduate students, produced over 200 publications, and we're now moving into our second phase with a very exciting science program and a very good network of researchers and students. The Global Change Grand Challenge is a really important program because it provides an opportunity and a platform for us to deal with problems and challenges that we otherwise might not consider. In the future, these problems and challenges are going to become more and more apparent, and the science that we're producing and the people that we are producing are going to stand us in good stead to deal with those challenges.
The Foundational Biodiversity Information Program sets out to provide a platform for discovery of foundational biodiversity at genetical, species and ecosystem levels, and for integrated research in key aspects of biodiversity that respond to both the Global Change Grand Challenge as well as the Green Economy Grand Challenge.
The Foundational Biodiversity Information Program funds research projects and data mobilization to provide basic information on biodiversity that we need to understand how global change is impacting biodiversity and how we can mitigate for those changes. We fund projects done by researchers at museums, universities, science councils, and the research we fund ranges from work on microbes and fungi to plants and a whole range of different animals. One of our main focuses is to develop young scientists, and we insist that at least 3 young scientists are part of our big team projects that we fund. And that's so that they have an opportunity to work with more senior researchers and learn from them, and to access some of the funding we provide. We've got 2 main aims for the FBIP going forward. The first is to get all the data that have been generated from the projects we funded together and make sure that the data are accessible for use by a wide range of researchers to get a big picture understanding about global change impacts on biodiversity. And then the second aim is to be able to measure the value and the impacts of the research that we funded and the use of the data for decision making and planning.
EON aims to provide a research and education environment to seek consilient knowledge and engagement amongst earth and life sciences, engineering, resource economics, human and cultural sciences through the application and dissemination of Earth stewardship science.
At EON we run a number of projects, a large number of projects, and some of these have to do with developing baseline studies in the Karoo ahead of potential shale gas, geothermal energy, trying to fix the problems of acid mine drainage in Gauteng. But the central part of our projects is called IPICADA. It's very closely tied to the Global Change program. IPICADA stands for Observe the Past, Consider the Present, and Ponder the Future. So IPICADA has a very large group of students, so ranging between 120 and 180 students. It varies a bit from year to year. But these students are not all at NMU. They are also at other universities that we work with together. For example, in the University of Free State, in Stellenbosch, in Pretoria, TUT, etc. And this is a very large team of students that comes together once or twice a year to think about all the problems that we're trying to solve.
The South African Environmental Observation Network, SEON, performs question-driven long-term environmental monitoring to create knowledge of complex ecosystem changes and causes.
SEON's research infrastructure is carefully deployed from mountain tops to the deep ocean in order to collect data that researchers and students can use to calculate what are the changes in the different systems. And these are then used to inform policy and management and of course new research projects. Over the last few years, SCION has supported a large cohort of students and emerging researchers to obtain the qualifications and the experience that they will need to establish themselves in future as researchers locally and globally. When I look at SCION over the next 5 years, it will double in size and triple its scientific output. A lot more research equipment will be deployed to strengthen the research infrastructure of South Africa to do environmental research.
The primary purpose of risk and vulnerability assessment centers is to provide services to local communities and knowledge brokering support to other users of the information.
Going into the future, we believe that our research from RAVAC in relation to food security will make climate change adaptation possible. We will be able to encourage inclusion of perennial species in the agricultural landscape, and we believe that we'll be able to minimize siltation of water bodies in the rural areas, and also overgrazing will provide alternative fodder as perennial species to improve the livestock productivity. And the research will continue because we want to expand our intervention more and more into many areas in the rural communities. Within the bigger global change research, we are specifically looking at waste minimization, conserving biodiversity, preparing for rapid change. We are also looking at water security for South Africa, food and fiber security, and then resilience and capability. So global change research is very important. If we don't have research, what are we recommending to the people to adapt?
The Global Change Science Committee has a role to monitor and provide guidance on the implementation of the scientific components of the Global Change Grand Challenge, and in particular, the research plan relative to its scientific goals.
In the 1990s and early 2000s, it was very instrumental in driving South Africa's national communication to the Framework Convention on Climate Change. So it really set up that first initial national communication, which involved a lot of work with South Africa's academics. Since then, it's been more instrumental in holding conferences and building a national awareness in climate change, advising the DST and the NRF on research programs, what areas are best to be funded. It's helped to develop strategic documents in science strategy, such as the National Strategy on Global Change Research.
With the weight of South Africa's talented scientific community behind them, the Department of Science and Technology and the National Research Foundation, in collaboration with other role players, including government, civil society and science councils, are confident that they can meet the challenges set out before them with the Global Change Research Plan.
All over the world, people are facing similar challenges in trying to move to a new kind of economy that is more environmentally sustainable. And as part of that effort, the Global Change Grand Challenge also tries to invest in technology areas where we can become global leaders and be able to create enterprises and business opportunities by selling our technologies and developing our own technologies. Over the next 10 years, we see our foundation that we've created in the last 10 years with the Global Change Grand Challenge growing from strength to strength and helping to address local and international problems.
South Africa's science is recognized by the global community as being at the top of understanding how the Earth system works, because we've used our geographic advantage in South Africa to develop a very, very strong scientific community that informs the global community on the science informing policy.
And more are becoming aware of the needs and in fact what the global change challenge is about. And so the investments that we have put in there from the DST and the government is increasingly showing evidence of people's understanding of our global change and of course our own contribution to the international science as it were.
The Global Change Grand Challenge is a unique and very innovative conceptual framework for pulling together basic science, applied science, technology development, social and economic development opportunities, all driven by science. I'm quite certain that if we pursue the thinking that gave rise to this Grand Challenge concept, we can only benefit as a nation.
We humans are a unique species. We are excited about the future and what we can achieve. South Africa will continue to push the boundaries of science and play a global role in unlocking the secrets of the universe. Welcome to the DST National Conference on Global Change.